Welcome to the MYS Virtual Hangout. Here's your host, MYS Music Director, Raúl Gómez.
Good afternoon and welcome to Hangout number 51. Today we're going to be talking with Oregon Symphony Assistant Principal Timpanist and Section Percussionist Sergio Carreno. Sergio, welcome to the Hangout.
Hey, Raúl.
How's it going?
How are you, my friend? ¿Cómo estás?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you for doing this. Do you say Sergio or Sergio, or does it depend?
It depends. It depends. I was born and raised here in the States, but my family's South American. I'm Colombian, and I'm the gringo cousin of the family, right? So with my family, and if I'm speaking, in Spanish, it's always been Sergio.
Sure.
But growing up here, going to school here my whole life and everything, it's always been Sergio.
Sure.
And so either one is fine with me. My friends call me Serge,
Okay.
like Power Surge, which I got as a nickname when I was in middle school band. The band director called me Power Surge. And so it stuck with me ever since I was, 12 or 13 years old or whatever. So Serge is actually what my friends call me.
And do people call you that here in Portland? Like your friends here? I didn't know that.
Serge.
Okay.
My wife calls me that. If they need to get my attention, like, hey, Serge,
Okay.
My in-laws all call me Serge.
Yeah.
Extended family.
Hey.
So yeah, Serge is like my go-to nickname.
Very good. And same with your last name, Carreño. Like if you're speaking Spanish, you say Carreño, or?
Yeah, Carreño is the actual family name.
Yeah.
With the N, but it's always been Carreno with just the N. And I believe it has something to do with the fact that I was a born citizen here. And so I think on my legal documents, it's all like N.
Oh, sure. I thought you didn't have the squiggle.
Right.
Laño.
So it's Carreno. The
Okay.
English translation of that is Carreno.
Good.
I've heard Carreno before people read my name. But it's always been Carreno. Sergio Carreno is what I go by in the English.
And you and Liz you guys have a little baby girl. Is it Isabella?
Isabella, yeah.
And she's
Isabella,
about 18 months or
coming up on 17 months.
17,
She's
okay.
Similar to Alma, right?
Almost the same. Almost the same. Alma's going to be 18 months on the 21st.
Yeah, so about a month. She's a month older.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as this, quarantine stuff is over, we need to get them together.
I know.
Yeah.
And Bella, she's so social. When we do go to parks, she wants to run to all the kids that are playing, over on the other side. And she just really is into other kids. Like she wants to go and play. So I can't wait.
What a weird time, right? For young kids. We keep thinking about that, and they're kind of starved of that social interaction.
I know. For all of us. I mean, we're all going through it, right? We're all going through it. We're grateful that the timing for us, and maybe you guys feel the same way, I don't know, but Bella hasn't gone to school yet, so she doesn't have her school friends.
Sure.
She doesn't ask why can't she go to school, those kinds of things. She's just, our silver lining is that we've been able to be with her.
Yeah.
And we're usually so busy.
Yeah.
And now we're just home with her, and it's just been just the best. And watching her grow, and all she needs are her books and her toys and our time together, and that's all she really has. And it's just been a joy for us, which has been weird because things are so strange. It's you read the news and you look out the window and you see like apocalyptic scenes, and
Sure.
you're like, wow, this is a crazy time. But you find your silver linings, you find the positive things to really focus on, and you go step by step, day by day.
Yeah.
And for us, it's been a joy with her, for sure.
Yeah,
but it is weird.
We also feel very lucky, but it is strange. It's like right before all of this hit is when we were starting to say, like, go to the public library for like story time or just do things like that, or just, but yeah, like you guys, we're also enjoying being with her. And I got her a little violin. It's a 1/16 size. It's like this. And now she asks for it. And what we do is like, we come to my studio first, we grab one of my instruments, and then she knows we're going to her room to grab her violin, and then she just carries it around. That's all she does. But and I kind of play or whatever. And
God, we've been watching the Metropolitan Opera every night. They've been streaming live, or not live, but for free since March, I believe.
Yeah.
And so before dinner time, we always put on whatever the opera is, and she's just like learned to clap when the audience claps. When she loves it. She's like,
Oh my
and
God.
hear like the end of the overture. She knows people are going to clap, so she stops doing whatever she's doing and turns and like gets ready to clap. And so it's amazing how they pick up on the cue. Especially if you're consistent with it. But yeah, she's kind of enjoyed it. And we saw a great video just yesterday of the German National Youth Orchestra on the Berlin Phil channel.
Sure.
And they were playing Rite of Spring, and it was awesome. It sounded great. And the new Berlin Philharmonic conductor was conducting, Kirill
Petrenko.
Yeah, he was amazing. And the kids sounded incredible. It's an awesome orchestra, and they played so well. And she was just like mesmerized because she's seeing young kids, and she's pointing at the screen saying "niños, niños," children in Spanish, and dancing up and down during Rite of Spring. I'm like, she's getting it. She's getting some music in there.
Yeah, very cool. And well, I mean, I was going to ask you about this a little later, but since we're talking about kids, you guys at the Oregon Symphony have been doing these really cool story time segments for children. So would you mind sharing about those?
Absolutely. In light of what's going on, and trying to get creative as an institution, organization, like everyone is, how do we keep doing what we do, bringing music to people, bringing joy to the community? We landed on doing some really highly produced video content. And we'll talk about some the stuff later too with Essential Sounds, but we've also done these symphony story times, which we always did in person, live. And so, I'd show up at a library, or whoever, my colleagues would show up, one of us would show up and work with a librarian or a narrator. And it was a room full of young little boys and girls. And we'd read these wonderful stories and provide a soundtrack to them, basically. Yeah. We'd play along, we'd make special effects, whatever. And I'd bring in a whole bunch of percussion instruments and play, hand drums and glockenspiel, little effects for all these things. So we did it in video form, and they came out so great. The team we worked with were just so wonderful, and the quality is so high. And what was special for me for this one was that instead of playing, they asked me to read some stories and to read them in Spanish. Yeah. And under normal circumstances, I might have been hesitant maybe to do that. But I'd been going for about a little over a year at that point, with reading Bella Spanish stories, or stories in Spanish. Yeah. And so it felt really like,
you've been preparing for this.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I'm ready for this, guys. Put me in, coach. It was I was super kind of amped, and more importantly, I think it's wonderful to show the community, the Hispanic community, Latinx community, that we're here. We're all together. We're all part of this community together, and that was really special. And of course, having that opportunity to be on video for my little girl to see me read the stories that she knows so well. Yeah. It was very exciting, and it was super fun to see that happen once we did it all. And the videos have come out now, and she watches them. It's just really, really, really special. So I got to read 3 stories in Spanish, and then my good friend and colleague Edna Vasquez, singer-songwriter, read one story. She played one of the stories I read, and she read one of the stories, and I actually played on that one. So I did get to play on one of them, which was really fun. And it was cool. It was illuminating for me as a bilingual person in that all my career I've performed in English mode.
Sure.
Like interviews, on stage, if I'm giving master classes, if I'm giving lessons, have always been in English. And I remember we got into the studio to do this, and it was weird in that people always ask me, So Serge, do you speak Spanish and think English? Do you think in English and speak Spanish? You know, like how does that work? And it's usually, well, if I'm in English, I think English, I speak English. If I'm in Spanish, I think Spanish. In the studio to do these, I went in there, you know, ready to go, and suddenly my mouth was doing weird things. My tongue was doing strange things. I was saying phrases really weirdly, or I would say them, and all this in Spanish, of course. I would say them, and then I asked like Ines, my good friend who's playing violin. I turned to her, I'm like, Ines, did I say that right? And she's like, yeah, that was right. And I'm like, it sounded weird. I realized my brain, for the first time that I could ever feel, my brain was in English because I'm used to performing in English, like I am right now.
Wow,
like not performing, but being in a formal setting,
kind of a public
on stage and in public speaking. It's always just been in English. So my brain suddenly just wanted to go to English, and I'm trying to speak in Spanish, and I felt that pull for the first time ever, and so awkward. It felt awkward, and I was saying things strangely, or felt like I was, but you know, it ended up being fine. But like internally, I was just like, what is going on? This is so weird.
That's really interesting. And yeah, the videos are fantastic. And I mean, you guys are great. And just like you were saying, the production value of the videos, as well as essential sounds, which, you know, let's talk about that now, because you sent me a video to share with our viewers, which is an excerpt from Essential Sound. So would you describe what that series is? And you know, because it's so cool. It's just so cool.
It's really wonderful.
And this one is the very first one. Like you are the first person we see at the very beginning of episode 1 of Essential Sounds. Boom.
Yeah, I was a little surprised about that. I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't realize this was going to be like this. But you know, we didn't necessarily record that in order, right? Did their stuff and then they produced it, and so we'll get to that in a minute. But Essential Sounds, just like the Symphony Storytime, was another avenue we chose as an institution, as an organization, to be able to reach people, to the community, and bring music to people's homes if they weren't going to be able to come to our concert hall. And at the same time, to give some tribute and some, you know, uplifting spirit to the essential workers out there that are really keeping us going at this time, you know. And yeah, gradually things are opening up again, but man, even, you know, back then, this was, I think, around April when we were filming this stuff, and it was like everything shut down. So like these doctors and healthcare workers and you know, family services and food banks and all these places that were like keeping society, you know, safe and going. I mean, we wanted to help as musicians, as artists, as you know, the Oregon Symphony. We wanted to be able to contribute to, at the very least, uplifting some spirits and bringing some smiles, and, you know, doing what we do as artists and as musicians. And this was one of the kind of avenues we took, along with Symphony Storytime, and brought it into the studio and filmed all these performances with members of the Oregon Symphony and friends of the Oregon Symphony. And, you know, I think we tried to connect with personal stories from musicians that were part of this. So in my case, it was about my cousin, Natalia, who is a doctor. She was born and raised in Colombia, but she became a doctor, and she's living in New York City. And she was treating patients in New York City when this pandemic hit, and she got COVID, you know. And so she spent like close to 6 weeks on a ventilator. It was rough. She got hit hard, and she's still recovering today. Way better. She's back home from the hospital and everything, but she's still like learning or relearning to use her body again, because, you know, she was essentially in a coma for like 6 weeks. It was rough. It was tough. And again, on a personal note, it was a way that I could feel like I was helping my family in some way. And in general, you know, these amazing people that were, on the front lines of treating patients and trying to keep people safe. And so this is a really special series, Essential Sounds. It's just so, like, every episode I've seen, you're just, it's emotional. You hear stories of colleagues that have, connections and similar stories, like emotional stories and uplifting stories. And, you just feel proud to be a part of an organization that can put something like this together. And I haven't really seen anything else like this from orchestras around the country. It's a really high level production stuff, and yeah, we're super happy with it.
Yeah, and I think it speaks about the way the Oregon Symphony really connects with your audiences. I think that's something special about you guys that it's not always easy to find, and with I think it's easier to find this in smaller ensembles, if that makes any sense, like kind of like chamber or like new music. Yeah. But an organization with the quality and the size of the Oregon Symphony, it feels to me like the orchestra has that sort of relationship with your audiences, and that shines through in this series, which is so good. And I would love to play that excerpt that you sent me, and it's you performing with your colleague John Greeny. So would you mind introducing the piece that you guys are playing, and then we'll take a listen.
Absolutely. John and I are good buddies with this amazing composer, Andy Akiho, who, if you remember that chat we had with Colin, we were talking about the percussion concerto that he wrote for Colin and the Oregon Symphony that we premiered last season. Right. He's an incredible composer, and this is one of his earlier works, and it's I believe it's from his first recording that he did, official recording. And the piece was written actually for solo steel pan, but it's such an amazing, it's so malleable. It can be performed in a million different variations or ways in terms of instrumentation. It could either be a solo, it could be a duet, it could be a chamber ensemble piece. It's really great. And so John and I had played it for a recital we had done a year ago or something. And so when we were putting together this Essential Sounds, and I wanted to play something to dedicate to my cousin Natalia, who was still in the hospital at the time and all that. And this is a great video. You get a taste of how well produced and how high the quality of the Essential Sounds series is with this video, I think. I mean, yes. The artists we were working with are just phenomenal. Gabe Kahane and Holcomb Waller, who kind of were the showrunners, as it were. They were the creative force behind it in terms of putting it all together and choosing repertoire that people had volunteered, like this piece, and where they're going to put it and how they're going to bring visual components to it. And you'll get a sense of that, I think, pretty strongly with this one. So Karakuranai is the name of the piece, and it's Japanese for crimson. And I thought it directly kind of connected to the imagery of the Red Cross, which was, something Holcomb Waller used in his visual representation of the piece while we're playing it.
Yeah.
So
it's so cool. Let's check it out. Here it is.
It's really, really beautiful.
Okay, that is so cool. And just, I mean, of course, Andy's piece is awesome. You guys are terrific performers. Uh, the camera work is also so engaging, the way it
Yeah.
was shot.
Yeah.
Where did you
Yeah.
guys
Like I
shoot
said,
this?
that team we worked with are so skilled at what they do. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
Um, it was fun. I mean, it was interesting. John and I decided to do this together. We walked into the studio to do this. Um, and we hadn't really performed in about a month or month and a half at that point. Now it's been, what, 6 months since we
right,
last
yeah,
were on stage
sure,
together.
sure.
But back then, and even just a month away from it, coming in to perform like on action, like ready and go, and we had to play it, was terrifying. You don't see it because we're wearing our mask, but I was like, oh my god, like what? It was so. I mean, what we do week in week out is you get used to being uncomfortable like that, but
Sure,
man,
sure.
we've forgotten how uncomfortable it feels, and it doesn't go away. I remember feeling like that when I was a young student, in middle school and high school, playing in youth orchestras and playing in band and all that. It was, you get that feeling, and
Sure.
you know what? That's a special part of live performance, and I think it's the magic that goes behind live performance. And if I ever stopped feeling that way, I think I would need to leave, because that would mean I didn't care anymore, right?
Sure.
So John and I walked out, and it was like, wow, I can't believe how terrifying that was. But I think we did like 3 takes, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And they had this preset kind of camera directing. Hulk, I believe it was Holcomb Waller who wanted certain shots in certain ways, and I'm not really sure on that.
Sure.
But whoever the team was back there working, they I know they had those, they had cameras on tracks and stuff that were going across and coming in and going out. So they had already figured out what they wanted to do, and so each one of the takes, I was seeing peripherally seeing similar camera work being done. And when I saw the end result, I was like, wow,
So
that
good.
was so well done.
And the little like introduction to the series, like the like where you roll some like credits and you see some shots. Like there's a shot in that little intro where you see Michael Roberts performing and being recorded, and you can see a couple of the camera operators. So it's and where,
I thought that was such a great choice. They give you a little peek in the camera work of the background of the staging.
right,
Of
yeah.
you see that, you see cranes, you see cameramen, or people working, you see off stage a little bit.
Well, that pulls you in as a viewer, right? And it's part of the same idea of like opening up yourself to your audience and inviting and engaging. Where did you guys shoot that? What studio?
It was in a studio. It was in a studio space in Northeast Portland.
Okay.
I can't remember the address, but it was near the Rose Quarter.
Sure. Okay. So it's like a space that's specific as a
space
studio
dedicated for us. And I mean, they'd gone in there for a while and like made sure it was all safe, and everybody was, we had our rules, and everyone had to be masked the whole time until some of the performers that you would see in other episodes are wind players, and so they would remove masks to play their instrument, but everyone had to be at a distance at that point.
Sure.
And those performers, same with Symphony Storytime. Actually, little trivia there, the stage that you just saw John and I playing was the exact same stage that we did the Symphony Storytimes in.
Cool. All right.
Exact same.
And
you see how different they look if you watch both of those. It's amazing the work they did.
Yeah.
Really great.
That's
really,
so
really
good. Let's talk about what you were just talking about live performing. That the emotion, the nerves, the adrenaline, all of that. And how you were saying that it doesn't go away, right? I mean, I guess I'll speak for myself. It's like my relationship with those emotions and those feelings has just sort of evolved over time and changed and grown or whatever. But it does start when you're young. You were saying like you were playing in youth orchestras. So tell us more about that, your beginnings, I guess, in percussion back in Miami.
Yeah, well, I don't know if maybe we, there's that segment at the end of the Say What, but a lot of people don't know that my beginnings as a percussionist actually started off with heavy metal.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna change the my screen here to our Say What segment. So it's like, boom, say
Well,
what?
There's a bunch of Say Whats, so we can go with a number of them, but this is one of them for sure. And I love telling the story to donors and patrons and students and whoever. But it started because I was born in 1980, and so I'm an 80s kid, and that's when MTV was a thing.
Sure.
And we didn't have the internet showing videos. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have any of that. We had MTV. That's if you wanted to hear music and cool music of the day and watch music videos, you go to MTV. And so well before I was ever interested in music making or playing, I was watching MTV.
Yeah.
And there was a particular group in the late 80s, early 90s that I discovered myself. I think it was like 90, 91. That was Metallica.
Sure.
And they grabbed me. That was it. And I was like, oh my God, like that was awesome. I was just like, that is amazing. I want to do that. I didn't care anything. And before I took any formal lessons, I practiced learning. Practice is a loose word in this case because I didn't even know what that was. I tried learning Metallica songs that I was seeing on MTV on my mom's couch with two recorders from elementary school that I had in my closet. They, in my mind, turned into drumsticks.
Oh.
And so I had two recorders that I turned them, and suddenly there were drumsticks. And I was facing my mother's couch, where one armrest was a hi-hat, the
Sure.
regular seat was a snare drum, and the tom-toms were the pillows. It turned into a drum set. And so I would sit facing the couch and play on the couch like it was a drum set. And like I had, and I was watching the music videos, and I could kind of see how like one hand's here, one hand's here.
Sure.
Cymbals and the fills. So I spent about a year and a half doing that before Mom, who bless her heart, never discouraged me, but she never like really encouraged me to be a drummer then. I think she let me go. And after about a year and a half of me doing that every day for hours, she realized this is real. This isn't a phase.
Yeah.
And at that point, she went full throttle, 100% support, like everything I needed, right? So she found teachers. She she went and talked to the band director at the school and got me in band and she got me the sticks and the whole thing. But she gave me the time of just let me go. Like she didn't get in the way. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes. She just kind of let me go. So I got very lucky. She was very wise.
So you were like 11, 10, 11, 12.
I started about 11. Yeah. And anyway, so you fast forward. So that was kind of like the spark, right? But what I had never really done was performed for anybody, like, and so when I got into band, middle school band, and it came time to play concerts, it was a very, wow, I'm like, my hands start shaking and sweaty and yeah, like you said a few minutes ago, that hasn't gone away. It's just evolved. Before Oregon Symphony concerts to this day, I still get the thing. I still get the butterflies. I've just accepted it over all these years. And I've learned to use it a lot of times because it can provide amazing energy, if you learn how to channel it. But it took me a long time. It was very difficult. I mean, it's stressful to be in that state. You're just like, oh my God, am I going to make a mistake? Or if I do make a mistake, oh my God, the world ends in your mind. It just feels hard, Yeah. But it's the magic of live performance, and you just learn to kind of refine it, and it becomes a part of you as a performer. And like I said earlier, if that ever went away, that would be weird. It would tell me something that, maybe I'm not passionate about this anymore. And maybe it's a sign to go or something, like I don't want it to go away because it tells me that I really care about this. I want to be someone who can push the art form and that's a lot of pressure, you know. So you feel that pressure,
Yeah.
and I welcome it. And I'm like, if I'm feeling that, it's to the point where I'm like, okay, it's game time. Like I can feel it. Like I'm ready to go and play now. It used to scare me a lot when I was a kid, you know, and even later. It feels more recent that I've learned to use it than you know, I don't know, maybe the last 10 years or so, where I felt like.
Sure. Yeah. It's a lifelong journey, and a recent guest of an MYS Hangout was talking about also how in that journey also you need to learn forgiveness, like to yourself, you know, because you're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna make lots of them.
Everyone
right?
does.
And it's
I mean, I remember my teacher talking about that. You know, look, we're all human. Everyone makes mistakes. The difference really between like a pro or professional musician and someone who's not yet is they make a lot less of them because you've prepared enough. You understand the level you need to be at more. Yeah. But everyone kind of goes through that process of learning through the mistakes.
Yeah.
And in being able to see my daughter every day for all these months, just every day, all day long, I realized that's kind of how we're built. We make mistakes all the time to learn to get better.
Yeah.
Because she fails every day at everything.
Sure.
And then suddenly she does it, and it's awesome. You know, suddenly she can finally walk. Right. Suddenly she can say those words she's been practicing saying, like babbling. Suddenly she can say it.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that we're kind of built. We are going to make mistakes if you're going to get better.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
You know, so we lose it at some point psychologically. It becomes much more heavy than it should be.
Right.
You know, you accept it. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
You gotta make mistakes to get better. That's the only way you go.
So let me react to your Metallica phase and your couch drum set. Two things. I have two thoughts. Or actually, one thought and one short story for you. One is that it's very cool that, I mean, of all the four members of the band, like you gravitated directly to the drums right away, right? Four, right? Four members?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And number two is that I want to share with you that I started my musical journey as a percussionist. And when I was maybe it was 8 or 9, my uncle, because he knew that I was into like percussion. I played the snare drum in my elementary school's little marching band. He gave me a drum set as a gift.
Nice.
Like a small-ish.
Gave me my first drum set. So uncles and aunts, man.
But I'll tell you what. All these years later, I found out that he actually did that as kind of a prank gift for my mom. Like he gave me a drum set so that I would drive my mom crazy playing the drum set.
That is amazing. That is.
So, but I got really, really into it too, and I became the drum set player for my schools. We had like a little cover band type thing.
See, this is why you're a good conductor. The pulse is strong. Your technique is clear, man. Like you got hands and you got that inner rhythm. That's why.
But it's all about the inner rhythm. And actually, I mean, I could talk for an hour about how, like, in orchestral playing and MYS and youth orchestras, like so much of the work that we need to do to get better as ensemble players has to do with rhythm. Like it's okay. But in any case, so I played the drum set, but then I fell in love with the violin eventually, and that kind of. And that's the.
I understand. I fell in love with the violinist.
Right.
I get it.
So you were playing in your school's band, etc. At what point did you become aware of of what it is to be a symphonic orchestral percussionist, and how did you? I mean, you went to school. You went to Carnegie Mellon. And you came back basically your hometown to play with New World Symphony, which is really cool. I want to hear about that. But like, how did you even think, oh, this is something I can do for a living?
Great question. Yeah, because people then ask, when they hear the Metallica story, then they ask like, well, how'd you end up being a classical musician? What, couple of things there, but in terms of my little journey to get to this spot in life, a few elements had to happen. So I feel very fortunate, almost like winning the lottery kind of deal. I happened to go to a school in South Florida that was a public school that had an amazing band program, well-funded schools, public schools with great music programs. That was A, really lucky with that. B, the percussion instructor that started teaching at that school, my first year at that school, just happened to finish his master's degree at Cleveland Institute of Music as a percussionist. And before that, he was at Eastman. So from my freshman year of high school, I was getting conservatory level information.
Yeah.
And he was actually from the area, from Miami originally, and he left the Northeast after grad school because he had focal dystonia in his hands. He couldn't really play anymore physically.
Sure.
So he kind of moved back. He was in his mid-20s, fresh out of grad school. So I got all this amazing, wonderful information. He moved back to teach music in South Florida and to work on conducting. And he became a very, very successful conductor in Florida, and has since moved away. I can't remember. I think it might have been Texas where he ended up going to. But anyway, when he was like 24 or 5 at the time, and I was 14, 15, he just showed me that this was something people can do. And I was kind of like, what? You can play music for a living? That's crazy. And it was just an avenue that was presented, right? So that's fine. That was information. Great. Fast forward to the end of my second year of high school. I made it into all county orchestra, which was weird because I was a band kid. And so in my mind, band was better. Sure. And I was actually upset that I got into the orchestra. And I remember telling my band director, like, why am I not in the band? What happened? And they're like, well, they just took the people that made it into all county and literally for the wind and percussionists said, okay, this person just goes to the band. This person just goes to the orchestra. They just split it up. And I was upset. I was like, well, I want to be in the band, man. And then I went to my first rehearsal. I got to be the timpanist of this ensemble too, by the way. So this is an important thing.
Nice.
So I was only playing timpani, and it was the March to the Scaffold of Berlioz,
sure.
Symphonie Fantastique. It was American Salute, the Morton Gould. Poet Nepezet von Supe, Overture. Variations on a Shaker Melody from the Copland, Simple Gifts.
Yeah, that's all good stuff, man.
Big timpani stuff. And so I showed up for the first rehearsal, and I heard the other thing that happened was I heard a really good string section because this was all county orchestra. So it was like the best string players of the county, which I hadn't heard before. And I remember the first A tuning, and I was like, whoa.
That sounds different.
That sounds different. And then we got through this amazing repertoire that I was fortunate enough to get to play timpani on. I'll never forget it. At the end of that rehearsal, I sat behind the timpani, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is it.
Nice.
This is what I want to do. And that was it. That was and I went back to my next lesson with Mike, who was that instructor I was telling you about. And I said, I want to go into music. I want to play in an orchestra.
Nice. Wow.
Like,
okay.
It got me like that.
Yeah.
And, to go back to, again, circle back to Metallica and heavy metal. It so happens that the emotions and kind of rush you feel listening to and playing heavy metal happens a lot in classical music, a lot more than people think. And so I was connecting to classical music repertoire on those levels also. Like it was engaging, and when I was really digging into these pieces and playing them, it was like exciting. Yeah. And I was pumped, and I was just like going to these concerts feeling the same as when I was playing heavy metal. And I think NPR or some big publication, I don't know if it was NPR or New York Times or somewhere, a few years ago came out with this whole article about this study that the brain of a heavy metal audience member and a classical music audience member functioned almost identically.
Wow.
Those two different genres of music.
Wow, cool. Very cool.
Science too. So it all kind of just actually works really well together. That journey just kind of flowed. Once classical music got to me, it captured me just like Metallica did, the same way. Yeah. And it's great for me being in this orchestra with my good friend John, the timpanist, because our stories are almost identical.
He's also a big metal fan. I know that. Yeah.
Huge. We've gone to like 3 Metallica concerts together since being here together. It's been amazing. And he's got, I think I've seen about 4 concerts live my lifetime of Metallica. I think he's been to 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, like it's big. So when we play like Rite of Spring together, which has 2 timpani parts, it's just like, we're like super into it.
Quite literally, yeah. You guys are rock stars.
Yeah, we're living a rockstar dream in the symphony orchestra.
That's a great quote. That's very quotable. I love that.
Put it on a t-shirt.
So let's. So we have a few fun segments that we do at the MYS Hangout here. But before we get like the 2 truths and a lie, which, by the way, I mean, you're the trivia champion, and I want to see if you're also a 2 truths and a lie champion, because statements you sent are really good. But before that, so I just want to fast forward real quick. So you went to school, Carnegie Mellon, for undergrad and a master's. Was it right after that you got the New World Symphony?
No, it wasn't actually. So I finished 6 years in Pittsburgh, studying there, which were amazing. And
great school.
I remember I was starting to make breakthroughs in auditions by then. I was starting to get through the first rounds and, made it to a finals and, here, there. So I was like I was starting to get there. And I remember having a conversation with my teacher and mentor, who was the timpanist of the Pittsburgh Symphony at the time. His name is Tim Adams. He's now the head of the percussion department at University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
So he's a really active teacher. He's an amazing musician, amazing human being. I was again, talking about win the lottery. I mean, being able to go study with him for 6 years was like life-changing. It was amazing. And we had this conversation at the end of coming up at the end of grad school where, I was making breakthroughs in auditions and doing well or better. And he thought I should stay and do post-grad work and keep doing the thing. I might hit a job soon if, and all this. But I remember thinking and talking to Tim about, I want to know if I can make it in the world as a musician without being just in school for like forever. I want to know if I can just get out there and be a musician and, not wait tables or not have to do other things, I just want to know if I can survive with everything I've learned as a musician, teaching, playing, whatever.
Sure.
And so I decided to leave school after my master's degree, and go back to South Florida, where I had connections through my history there of going to school and high school, these big public band programs, public school band programs that were really successful. So I connected with them and went and did what that teacher of mine back in high school did, Mike.
Oh, okay.
I started teaching. And I made a great, freelance income teaching at 3 or 4 schools and freelancing all over Florida, and I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I got my answer within that year. Like, yes, I only did music and did okay, Was it what I wanted to do? I also quickly found out, no. I wanted to be a full-time performer. I loved the teaching. I loved those kids. I taught in South Florida for like 10 years. I did a bunch of stuff with marching bands and did the drumline thing and like percussion ensemble stuff and writing, arranging, taking kids to competitions, national competitions. It was just the best. But I really wanted to focus on performing. You know, I felt like that was originally when I sat behind the timpani in my sophomore year after that first all county orchestra rehearsal. It was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew I could always teach, but I knew that to focus on winning a job in an orchestra, I had to focus on that. You know, I had to like do that 100%, 110%, because it's very challenging. It was for me.
It's for anybody.
I mean, it's not easy. And so I did that freelance teaching thing in South Florida for about 2 years. I got offers to be band director and stuff like that. I had connections and we were doing really well with stuff, but I just knew if I left the performance thing, that might be tricky. I might not be as happy as I was. And so the kids might suffer because of that. I didn't want that to happen. You know, I wanted to be a fulfilled musician that can then teach and give them everything I had, you know. So after about 2 years of that, I thought, okay, this is great. I know I can be a musician in the world, but I really want to win a job in an orchestra. So I'm either going to go back to school, keep studying, or there's this audition for New World, which was a 45-minute drive away from where I was living at the time. I've already been freelancing there. Playing extra with the orchestra. And I had auditioned 3 times before while I was in school. Yeah. And I thought the New World Symphony was awesome. You know, it was great. It was like the height of orchestral playing in South Florida at the time, because the Florida Philharmonic was gone at that point. And so it was something I was really pushing for. I was like, I would love to be in that institute with that organization. And so I thought after 2 years of freelancing, okay, I'm either going to go back to school or I'm going to try this again with New World and see what happens. And I got the position then, which was like, oh man, that was a life changer. I was a life changer. And so I spent 4 amazing seasons playing in the New World Symphony, and it was just and touring and MTT and MTT and all these other amazing conductors and
that being Michael Tilson Thomas.
Michael Tilson Thomas, the music director there. He's the founding, that's his baby for sure. He just retired from San Francisco, but he's going to be full time over in Miami now. But you work with everyone. Yo-Yo Ma, and just Thomas Otis, the composer, then John Adams, conducting his music with him, conducting it, or playing his music with him, conducting it, and
state-of-the-art facilities too.
And that was the time, my first year at New World, we did the groundbreaking for the new campus.
You did? Okay.
And my 4th season there, we opened it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I got to see the process of the new building, the Frank Gehry, fancy, New World Symphony Center, or New World Center, be constructed, and we got to open it. I got to be part of that ensemble that opened this brand new place. So it was an amazing 4 years. It was amazing.
And the Oregon Symphony right after?
Right after. I finished the World in May of 2011, and the audition here for the Oregon Symphony was in November of 2011. Yeah.
Did you and Liz meet in the orchestra?
Yep.
Man, do you ever stop and I don't know, appreciate the fact that all of this that you just told me led to Bella?
Every day.
Right?
I see her and I'm just in disbelief.
Everything.
Every step that I took, that life presented, and every decision I made to do this and not that, or go here and not there, all added up to that.
Yeah, and now
to have her, and it's just
it's so cool. It's so cool, and
it's
you know exactly what I'm talking about. Very cool.
It's something that you won't know until you have the kid, man. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I do every day. Yeah. I feel it every day when I see her.
Very nice.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. I feel very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Cool. Let's play our 2 truths and 1 lie game.
All right.
And do you happen to have those statements nearby?
Yes.
Because if you do, I would love to ask you to read them. as I reveal them on the screen. So if you're ready, I'm ready. And I'll try to read your face and listen to how you read them to see if I can get to the bottom of this.
Okay. So what I did was the way I went about thinking of what were my two truths and a lie was, well, let me frame it. I've gotten to do some pretty fun, cool things because of music. And I've met and worked with some amazing people and because of music. So I thought I'm going to take two of kind of my favorite moments as a musician and who I've been able to meet or work with and use that as my basis. So here's my two truths and a lie. Here's the first one. While he was on a press tour for Bacardi rum, I spent the day hanging with tennis legend Rafa Nadal, who's like a hero of mine, where we connected over the value of consistent dedication, hard work, and practice in both sports and music.
Very good.
So here's number two. I once played as a backup performer for Kanye West on his Touch the Sky tour in 2005. Audience members included my mom and my aunt, who bought me the drum set, by the way. The same aunt.
Okay.
And then number three. I once performed a Gershwin medley with my childhood idol, Lars Ulrich, who is the drummer from the legendary heavy metal band Metallica. Audience members included Madam House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, John Legend, and Big Bird from Sesame Street.
Oh, they're so good. They're just so good. Okay, so what I do normally is I try to find one of the truths first, and then I try to narrow it down. So,
good strategy.
Do you play tennis?
The two sports I'm most into are tennis and soccer.
Okay, playing them.
And like I said, Nadal's like one of my heroes.
Yeah. Same. He's a righty playing with his left hand, which is just crazy.
His uncle was very smart.
Crazy. I also have huge admiration for Rafa Nadal and other tennis stars, and I enjoy tennis.
Federer is like, for me, Rafa's one of my idols that I look up to just with his hard work and his perseverance. Roger's like an alien. He's
just
unreal, graceful, beautiful. He's like Leo Messi football versus Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo is much more like, and Messi's like an alien. He just does things with the ball that nobody else can do, right?
Yeah.
Federer was like that, and Nadal was a little bit more like get in there, and I felt like I connected that way. I never felt like I was super talented in music, so I always felt like I had to really get in there,
Yeah.
So I latched on to Nadal quite a bit.
Very cool. Okay, so press tour for Bacardi rum. I mean, he would do that. All right. So that's okay. So statement B. The fact that you're including your mom and your aunt here, it makes it seem very real to me. And then
it was a pretty high profile situation. It's like you gotta, and it was in the Madison Square Garden. They're out in New York. I didn't mention that my mom and aunt live out in New York now, not in South Florida.
Yeah.
So it was like an easy kind of drive in from Long Island.
So you're giving me you're giving me more details here. So, and C, Gershwin medley. So this one is pretty out there, I have to say. Gershwin medley with Lars Ulrich from Metallica, and then all these audience members. Madam House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Now, I guess regarding the timing, I wonder. I mean, is this when she was already House Speaker? Was this before she was House Speaker?
She is. Yeah, she was already.
Okay, you're giving me more info for this one too.
And Big Bird. I mean, that was special because like part of another thing of say what, a lot of people don't know is Spanish was my first language, my native language, because I learned English in school here, but at home it was Spanish. But I started learning English before school was with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in Sesame Street.
Okay.
And so having Big Bird around was like awesome.
And Lars Ulrich too, same.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Like we talked about a lot this episode. He's kind of one of the sparks that the reason I'm even here is because of that band and because of that drummer.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that one of your true statements is B. Kanye West Touch the Sky Tour in 05. Is that a true statement?
Nope.
That's your lie?
That's my lie.
Get out of here. Oh, wow. The mama
But,
on...
who did do that was Liz, my wife.
That's
her truth.
Whoa, cool.
Kanye and her mom and aunt were in the concert.
Wow. Well, good bluffing there, man. Good. That's impressive bluffing from you, giving me more details for that one. New York and Madison Square Garden. Wow. Well, you remain the reigning champion of MYS Virtual Hangout games. Trivia and Two Truths and a Lie.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. And Kanye mid 2000s. It's like,
His height.
Yeah. It's really, really, really cool, groundbreaking stuff coming out of his catalog. Okay, well, now you have to give me a little bit more information about the other two. So how did you spend the day with Rafa Nadal?
It wasn't even like 2 minutes. It was like the whole day.
What?
So when the New World Center was built, it was really fancy, and it still is, right? Frank Gehry and all this, and it was in that first year, the first few months that it was built. But a lot of like, Miami Fashion Week and Art Basel all these things that they would rent out this fancy, new, crazy looking, awesome hall to do things in. And so Bacardi Rum came out with this new marketing push back then. This was 2011, early 2011. And I think the theme of it was Champions Drink Responsibly. And there still is a big tennis tournament leading up to the US Open in Miami. And so every year, all the big tennis superstars would go to Key Biscayne, Florida to play in back then what was the Sony Ericsson. I forget what it's changed now since then, but there's Indian Wells in California, and then Miami, and then the US Open. And so I would always go see Rafa and Federer and every year go out there because it was like an hour away. And I heard that Rafael Nadal was going to be in the building the next day. This was the day before, obviously. And I'm like, whoa. What did you just say? Rafa Nadal is going to be in the building because of this big press tour for Bacardi Rum. They were going to seal off a bunch of the building, and there was going to be a huge, presentation and all these journalists and media. And then he was going to do interviews all day long with all these different outlets. Yeah. And I called one of the operations people in New World who I knew very well. And I said, oh my God, I have to meet him. I have to meet him. He's one of my idols. I have to meet him. And she goes, well, I was thinking about who could I use on our end in the New World Symphony to be a part of his entourage, because just to be able to navigate the new building. And Sergio, you speak Spanish, don't you? And I'm like, I do. Like, well, his entourage are all from Spain, Spanish speaking. Like, maybe the hall really well. Maybe would you mind joining his crew?
Get out of here.
And I just fainted.
Yeah. That's so cool.
So I joined Rafa Nadal's entourage, and we did, of the whole day, we spent about 4 hours doing this whole thing. And I was there with his bodyguard and his manager and all these people. I was just part of this bubble that went around with him. And I watched all the interviews and all that. And then a few times he had to do go change outfit, go to the bathroom or something. And I was the guy, they were like, hey, do you know where to go? And I'm like, yeah, come with me. And so it was me and him.
Yeah.
walking around this New World Center, and we started just chatting. And we really did start talking about how, like, you know, people don't often look at people like him. And I was seeing this in the interviews. They would always ask, like, what's your big secret, Rafa? What do you do to be the best? And he's always just like, I just work really hard. It was like almost frustrating. You could see that. And we talked about how, like, people don't see, like, the amount of work that it takes to be that good at anything, whatever it is, sports, music. And we talked about art and music, and we talked about sports, and we really did kind of connect on this level of, like, you know, all the work, all this, like, mountain of work, and all anyone ever sees is the just you're on top of that mountain. Like, realize how much work it took to get there
and to stay there.
And stay there, right? And so, man, that was like one of the greatest days of being a New World for me, for sure.
Well, and you know what? Like, I'm so glad that this happened to you, but also that after spending time with him, you're equally as a fan of his, because I've heard stories of people meeting their idols and then it's a big letdown and they're not like the nicest people or whatever. But it sounds like your experience with him was really good. Really positive
and sweet person.
Yeah, that's so cool. Very cool.
He's a monster on the court. Like, he is like an animal.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's amazing
to watch him. Off the court, he's just so sweet, and he was so grateful, and he was so humble. And he, like I said, we just had these conversations, and he was so. It almost seemed like he was really happy to meet somebody who understood that he had to work so hard for so long to get where he got to, and that person was doing the same to try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so he was very, like, just down to earth and easygoing, and it was just so much. It was just so much fun. It was so much fun.
And so this would have been like 2010.
I think it was 2011.
11. So it's like also probably those years that both him and Federer were just like basically swapping.
Actually, that year, that's the year Djokovic decimated everyone.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
That's the year Djokovic just beat he just went to town. Like, he just became part of the big three. Up until that point, it was just the two of them, really.
Yeah.
He was coming up there, but Djokovic turned into Djokovic.
Yeah, beast.
That was the year.
Okay,
but still,
cool.
it was amazing.
Yeah. Okay. And just about the other one, I mean, that's just so insane. But I just want to know one thing. Where was this?
So this actually happened in December of 2019.
One
of the most recent things to happen to me. And what happened here, the reason why the audience was just, what? And I just remember thinking, like, this would be perfect. Like, no one will ever believe this.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So actually, it's connected to New World again. Because in 2019, December of this last year, Michael Tilson Thomas was honored for the Kennedy Center Award.
Okay.
And so this was at the Kennedy Center in DC, and it was for Kennedy Center Honors. And Michael Tilson Thomas is actually really good friends with Metallica.
Of course.
From the Bay Area. And Metallica has performed with San Francisco Symphony numerous times. And Michael and Lars know each other really well. And they put together an orchestra of alumni from New World to perform at this event to honor Michael. And aside from this orchestra that was made up of all these great musicians from every orchestra in the country, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Metropolitan Opera, the Oregon Symphony, Kansas City Symphony, just everywhere, just every orchestra, LA, San Francisco, all of them. They also had good friends, artists of Michael's, like Audra McDonald, Yuja Wang, and Lars Ulrich gave the introduction for Michael's award. And they thought it would be fun at the end of, we played a bunch of music in the orchestra, but then we did this big medley. And Audra came out and sang a little bit, and Yuja played a thing. And Lars came out on stage and played this, like, 2 drum solos for 8 bars. And I was playing hand drums for this, and he was sitting, like, right next to me to play the solo. So he came out, and I was playing drum set on another thing right before, so we played the same drum set.
Yeah.
I played it, and then the next song, this medley, he came on and played those solos. and we were right next to each other, and we got to like meet and hang for the rehearsal.
Dude, what? Did you tell him your couch story?
No, we didn't have time for all that, but it was like, there's so much going on. So like we get on, but I told, big fan and all that, but we got to play together, and at the end, we do the fist bump and the whole thing, and it was just like,
oh man.
And Sesame Street was also being honored that night.
Yeah.
And so Big Bird was actually there. And since it's Kennedy Center Honors, you have dignitaries from the U.S. government. So Nancy Pelosi was out there. So was Chief Justice John Roberts and a few other people out there that were like, oh, that's crazy. There's I could see them. And Tom Hanks was there because Sally Fields got an award that night too. So Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks were there. And Earth, Wind, and Fire got an award. So John Legend was there to give it. And so they were all in the audience. I could see every one of these people,
Very cool.
And that was like, oh my God. And so I thought this would be hilarious because no one would ever believe that.
No, it's most unbelievable sentence I've ever read. It's so very cool.
You can go to YouTube and see this whole thing.
Oh, cool.
It's out there. There's proof.
Look that up. Okay.
So when you see it, if you see it, and they show Lars this little solo, I think, and I'm the guy just right next to him, playing hand drums with him, Wow. That was a fun night. That was a special night. It was a good way to end 2019. And it was fun. It was really fun to see old friends of mine from New World and all that. It was great to see Michael again. I mean, it was just a really fun experience. That was really, really
all right. Well, I'm gonna see if I can find that video, and I'm gonna insert it right here on this screen.
Get in there, go find it.
Right now, a little later. Okay. Wow. Well, congrats on all of those amazing stories, but more importantly, on winning this round of 2 truths and a lie, and prolonging your reign. And is there anything, Sergio, that you would like to plug or invite our viewers to check out online? Anything you've been working on recently?
I think, we just dropped the last episode of Essential Sounds recently. So there were 6 total episodes. And they're all about 30 minutes long, and they're all really unique, and they all address certain things in the essential worker kind of world and in the moment we're living now in a lot of ways too. And so they're really, really well done, and just so proud to be a part of an institution that can do this, and so really go check out Essential Sounds on Oregon Symphony YouTube or website. And they're wonderful. Yeah. Symphony Storytime out there too. They're really fun stories too for the little ones. If you have little brothers or sisters out there, for the people watching, or if you have parents watching this right now and have little ones, I think the Symphony Storytimes are really wonderful also.
They are. And we're going to link all of those on the video description for this Hangout. Serge, man, it was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Absolutely.
It's always so inspiring and just so fun to spend time with you, and also your colleagues at the Oregon Symphony. Right.
It was great, man. Big hugs.
Same. Thanks again.
Hi to your lovely family.
Same. Talk to you later. Thank you, Serge.
Yeah.
And as always, thank you for watching this Hangout with Sergio Carreno. It was so fun. We have great guests coming up next week. September 17th, Stephen Schmidt, an MYS alum who's a successful and award-winning composer based in Los Angeles. And then the week after that, September 24th, Hamilton Chaffetz, professor of cello at Portland State University, is going to be our guest. This is a very exciting week because this Saturday, September 12th, is the first MYS rehearsal of our fall season, which is all online. We're actually very excited about the season that we have put together for our students. And if you want more information, go to our website, playmys.org, or to our Facebook page or other social media outlets. There is still time to register if you want to join MYS. Just go to our website. You'll find everything you need right there. So I will see many of you this Saturday at rehearsal, and the rest of you next week for the next MYS Virtual Hangout. Thank you.